Hello, we are the Human Rights Commission of Durham, and this is the official start of our meeting for October 9th, 2025. We'll go around the room first to introduce ourselves, as we have a member on Zoom, and so we'll have to, I think that any vote we take or anything we do needs to officially take that into account. So why don't we start on this side with Todd?
I am Todd Selig, the administrator for the town of Durham.
Kathy Collins.
You're going to need to turn your mic towards you.
Kathy Collins.
Richard Belshaw.
Leslie Schwartz.
I'm Sally Tobias. I was asked to attend to talk about housing.
And on Zoom we have
Janet Perkins-Howland.
Hi, Janet. Okay, we're missing Robin today, who can't be with us, and Kathy, you are taking the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Our land acknowledgement statement. I'll read that. The town of Durham, New Hampshire wishes to acknowledge the spiritual and physical connection maintained by the Pennacook, Abenaki, and Wabanaki peoples to Nadikina, homeland, Nibi, water, Lolawikak, flora, and Awasak, fauna. New Hampshire has been home to these indigenous people for thousands of years. The residents of Durham acknowledge the ongoing hardships endured by our neighbors after the loss of their unceded homelands, which we now steward, and we will work to foster relationships to support the well-being of indigenous people who carry forward the traditions of our ancestors. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move to approve today's agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any comments or conversation? All in favor? I guess we have to go around the room, so,
Yes, in favor.
okay, aye,
Aye.
and Janet.
Hi.
Okay, we have a presentation by, first I guess I should welcome Sally here. And I called her yesterday to see if she would like to come sit in and talk about one of our agenda items. So thank you for being here.
No, you're welcome.
Sally. Let's move on to presentation by Business Manager Gail Jablonski on the process for providing local. You're on.
All right. Well, our office is always open to anybody who feels they're in need. Normally, it's a housing need. We have probably maybe 8 to 10 people a year come in. The problem is normally that they can't afford their housing. Normally, they're on some type of disability income, or they just don't make enough working in their jobs to handle all their expenses. We do what we can to help them. We try to direct them to shelters if necessary, to low-income housing. It's not very often, though, very long wait lists for everything. The few people that we do have are usually able to turn themselves around, or they find a friend, or they end up some. Normally, they're not families. They are single people. I would say anywhere in their 20s, 30s. A few maybe just starting out in life, may have come upon some hard times with a surgery or an illness where they weren't able to work for a month or two. We get them through that time period, and they're back on their feet. Like I said, there's a few that are on disability and just can't find a place to live within their means. So we do help them with that. We hook them up with Stratford County Community Action. We try to give them referrals to everything we can think of that may assist them, and do what we can to help them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to questions or comments, if anybody has any.
Janet?
Comment. I think it's just might sort of coincide with what Sally might be talking about with housing, insecurity, and just the cost of housing. It's very interesting, Gail, that you said that a lot of the folks are young, because I think there's some, I know excellent data about how it's just, everything is just more expensive, and housing is one of those burdens that people, when it is a human right for someplace to live. So I just think it's kind of conversation vis-a-vis the housing crisis, that's what you're seeing. In terms of, that's all, just a comment.
I'm wondering if, so I'm interested in that too, the age being sort of mostly 20s, 30s.
Yep.
And they're all folks that have lived in Durham or did live in Durham?
Well, one of the requirements is they have to have been here for at least 30 days, but most of them have been here for probably 6 months to a year. Unfortunately, we do have a few people that have moved into town, not being able to meet their rent when they moved in, go for a while, and now they're finally realizing that they're never going to catch up.
Yeah.
So,
Are any of them students or?
no, we do
Okay.
not assist students unless they're able to work full-time in addition to their studies.
Okay. And then referring them to, you said the community
Community action program.
action program.
Yeah.
Has that proved successful?
It
get
helps
feedback?
some. They are able to sign up for their food stamps. They're able to get electrical assistance, heat assistance, those types of things that help them through with some of their time. So
Yeah.
there is no like rent assistance available.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. Any trends or patterns, or is every year different? That is there's nothing to equate or align with the greater housing
Yeah.
crisis.
Yeah. No, not particularly.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we're welcoming Deborah, excuse me. How are you?
It was a hell of a time getting here from Portsmouth. The traffic is crazy. I tried messaging. I didn't have your cell phone number. I messaged you. But your phone
I
number-
delivered your.
You got it. Okay. I tried joining by Zoom, but that didn't work either. Sorry.
Get settled, that's all right. We just started, Gail has given us a short rundown of town services. We're just comments, questions, things like that.
I just know, interestingly, I think across the street right now is working with somebody who is having an issue. There are two officers there, and the person for some time moving his arms around in strange ways. So I'm wondering if that might be one of the regional unhoused plans come through or not. But we'll see.
Which leads to the question, are there regulars who come and come to the town who are not from Durham or who engage the police are engaged with?
Not usually, because we refer them to wherever they came from. Occasionally, actually hasn't happened in a few years, but we may have somebody who drove down from Maine and now realizes his gas tank is empty and he can't get back home. So we just
Right.
help him get that and get him moving. But we've
Okay.
done bus tickets once or twice to somebody that wanted to go back home that was out of state. We've assisted them with that, but that's normally all we see.
Picking up on Leslie's comment, is there, this has basically been the history, right? So it's sort of year in, year out,
Yep.
what you've described, which sounds helpful to a lot of people. There's never been a shelter in Durham, or there's never been sort of low-cost housing options for Durham in its history or nearby, or?
Other than we have the Madbury, the Baghdad Woods, we have the mill, what are those called right there? Mill Pond.
Churchill.
Churchill, sorry, thank you.
Uh-huh.
But those are, again, they all have lengthy waiting lists.
Yeah, those are just income restricted.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Okay.
And Richard, I think the county that, it would probably be in Dover, it wouldn't be in Durham, but,
Okay. As you can see, the next topic is sort of connected with this, and so, but I know Gail probably has a lot of work to do and an injury, and so I don't want to keep you.
Okay.
But is there any thoughts or any final questions for Gail before we move on?
I have one quick, if I can ask, because I noticed, yeah, I
I
do.
don't remember.
And in finding it, having gone onto the site to figure out how you actually get it, I wonder if you guys have considered making it a little bit more streamlined. Because you have to, if somebody just knows that they can go, but sometimes if you are a member, have a family, and you have a different type of lifestyle rather than, oh, sorry, you know what, I know that all the time. You may be looking for resources, and I know that you have to go to the town where to start the search. And I was curious myself, so I just went on, and it's under doing business, and then you have to go to the town directory, and then you have to go to the service directory, and then you have to find it on the list in alphabetical order. So I don't know if you would want to make it more public or more easy for people to see that link, because I would imagine you may have families or that are in home and are just wondering what to do that don't really know how to access it, because it is a little, you do have to kind of dig
around.
for
Yeah, we
it.
can look into that and
Yeah,
see if we
yeah,
can
and I
make
think
it-
that if you made it a little bit and not under the doing business,
Mm-hmm.
but under, resources, would be,
Yep.
probably that would be the place to go, under resources.
Sure, we can look
You
into
know,
that.
because it does seem a little cumbersome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's something this committee can help with too.
Speak more to that, maybe?
Well, I mean, just if it's a human rights related issue that the town is, involved with, maybe we can help codify that, like Sally said, make it more streamlined for people, more specific and easier to use, and
Because there is an
could-
application, but I think they have to download it.
You have to download it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a 54-page guide and a 22-page application.
Yes, it is.
So I'm like, oh, wow.
It is. Yeah.
So I think, and from the, that's what my point was, from a human rights point of view, things that would just make it less intimidating.
More accessible.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's a difficult thing for people to
Very
have to do.
difficult, yep.
So I've learned recently, actually before the last meeting, that every town is required to help somebody who walks in the door who's in
Yes.
need,
Yes,
kind of broadly
very
defined.
broadly. Yes.
And I've been to a few town websites, and there's, they're all similar in that they don't really stress that.
Yes.
And you just sort of have to know, or you just go. And, does that need to be on front and center on a website, town website, or maybe you dig under resources and find it, or something, or maybe don't even mention it, I don't know. But it seems like one more possibility for letting people know where help is.
Right.
I guess.
The thing with the welfare is, you usually go to the community you reside in. So what happens is they go through the full process, and if they deny them for some reason, as welfare officials, we don't want them, jumping to, well, they denied me, but let me jump over to Durham and see, wait a minute, let me jump to Newmarket and see what I can get from them. We try to
Right.
keep it within the community they're in.
Right, okay.
And the state will direct them to their, they
Yes,
will,
they-
so many times they find out because the state tells them.
Right. If they call 211,
Yeah.
one of the first things they say is, have you contacted your local welfare officer?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Thank you, Gail.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful
you.
meeting.
Get better quickly.
Thank
Yes.
you. If my boss wasn't so strict, I wouldn't be here.
Okay, we can continue our conversation about housing. I asked Sally to be here because of her role as the chairperson of the Housing Commission.
The Housing Task Force, which.
Housing Task Force.
Housing Task Force, which has completed its task.
So it's
And-
no longer a task force, or?
Yeah, we completed our task, and forth, we found got lots of information. We put forth a several amendments that we're recommending the planning board take into consideration, which is a public process, of course. But I think at this point, a member of the council and some other people have asked me, like, well, what more? Like you said, what more can we do? And so there is there are some options going forward as to what maybe could be, done.
Okay, just so everybody's clear, so are you still meeting, or are you
No,
still?
we're done meeting. We had
You're
our
done.
last meeting Tuesday morning where we presented our amendments.
Okay.
We'll carry forth the thing. But it was a task force, so to speak, and we had specific things. And for carrying on, it was like, well, how would we, what would be the main guide? So I think we would have to reformulate the purpose of it to continue on.
I see.
And what was.
Can you give us a heads up on your recommendations to the town council? Or
Well, I think we are done, and maybe there is some more thought within the community as to whether or not who and how and what. I met actually this afternoon with members of the Seacoast Workforce Coalition, and they have some ideas as to what could be that are more focused on showing people how to advocate, how to bring people for advocacy of housing concerns and issues, because it is something where you can make zoning changes all day long, but it doesn't necessarily change the minds or change the decision-making process outside of zoning. You know what I mean? And they have a couple of different programs that they're interested in getting done in the town, and one of them is an advocacy kind of training where those interested parties that may have an in-housing can come and get trained in how to be advocates, because it is intimidating to come to meetings and stand up. We don't often hear from a wide variety of people, and some people may not realize it, some people may not care, they may think, well, it's fine, I don't have a problem with it. So often what you get is you get resistance speaking instead of support speaking, and there's often a lot more support than we realize. And so their thoughts were to people that they had, one of their programs is in training people to be advocates for those things that they want their community to be more aware of and to support more. That is something that we just started talking about, and Curtis Register, one of the council members, he's very interested in that. The other thing would be another kind of charrette that is focused on the stakeholders that would be involved, in any kind of housing situation, building housing or workforce housing, bringing that and that of course would be through the Workforce Coalition and oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the other one, but an outside agency comes in and leads that group of stakeholders through the process and getting information, getting that information immediately out into the community to get feedback from it, because you need the feedback from the community. And those are two things that they're kind of recommending we could maybe move forward within the community, because part of housing, a lot of people I think the one thing about housing is it's starting to hit everyone. And I think there's a lot of things people say, oh, whatever, but I think you're seeing more support for it because it is affecting every age group. And with a large effect on the younger and much older. because you have the younger people coming out of college, and they're pushed to their limits to afford rent. I mean, Dover's average rent is about $2,000. Durham's is a little higher than that.
So 2,004,
A month for, say, a two-bedroom
a
apartment.
two-bedroom apartment.
Yeah. You might get 18 to 19 for a one-bedroom apartment. You can get some lower, and that, of course, is average. I mean, I know of some that are going for $1,750, $1,795 for a two-bedroom, but that's close to $1,800, and for a two-bedroom. So then there are some that are much more. So that's an average. You also have to realize the requirements to get into those apartments are, there's a high bar. Many landlords are requiring a percentage of rent to earnings. So they'll say you need to make 3 times, you need to show and prove earnings of 3 times what your rent is. So if you're going, or your rent is $2,000, are asking between 2.5 to 3 times that in gross income a month. So if you're going in and you want to rent a $2,000, a decent two-bedroom apartment in, a newer unit that's in, or even some of these are older units, they're asking to show that you are earning $6,000 a month, which is a lot. It's not necessarily what the guys that work at Home Depot are making, or the people working at Circle K. They're making $16 an hour. And putting up with a lot. And you need, the average person needs 2 incomes if you're working in the retail industry, or you're working at some of these jobs that we all engage with these people every single day. You need them. If you're making $18 an hour, your spouse or your partner needs to make $18 an hour as well, and work full 40 hours. But if you miss a day and you get sick, that's when you're living paycheck to paycheck. So it's expensive. And Durham's rents are even higher because you're renting by the bed, and they may have some 3 bedrooms available, or 2 bedrooms available, maybe, but you're not going to. Most people aren't going to rent a room because they have to pay for all bedrooms.
Right.
So that's a lot. So that's the catch there.
Questions by anybody at this point? Janet?
Just a comment too, that just to add that is one of the reasons why people aren't having children either, is that we can't afford them, because even if Sally said they both have to work, so that, and even if they're both working, they can't find affordable childcare, which is taking a huge chunk out of that, whatever little they have left too. So
If you could even find childcare.
if you can even find it. So in a state with a shrinking population like ours, that is really something, it's something that we have to pay much more attention to, because not only do we not have young families moving in, we also don't have young people taking care of all that are old. So I'm personally interested in having somebody take care of me in the next.
Okay.
Sometime in the future. Yes, I share that.
And I think that point is something that we're not really taking seriously enough, because we're seeing an effect on the university now in a decline in birth rate, and a choice of going out of state to different states where it's maybe a little bit cheaper. And the effect that has on the economy, it affects the economy, it affects care, it affects everything. And your schools, your fixed costs remain the same, even though you don't have all those kindergartners. It's really a daunting problem when you realize that if my children choose to have children, and one of them is talking about it now, but he hasn't gotten married yet, and so I figure it's going to be at least another 8 years before they have any kids. He's going to be close to 40, and they'll probably have one. I had 4. You know, and so you realize they're waiting much longer, and they may only be having one child because of the cost.
Yeah. Does bring up the subject of economics, is there any consideration of the even immediate but future job market like where are people working now that don't where the positions where their work may not survive and where they may be downgraded or eliminated, because of AI moving in, because of other outside influences. I know in the academic world, I hear a lot of really kind of both fascinating and sort of horrible stories of usage of AI and, a whole sea change in how you do education. And I'm sure with the economic situation of our country, a lot of things are changing. How does that affect the housing market?
Well, yeah.
How
the
can you
thing
answer
is,
that?
Well, I haven't researched jobs, but just from my own, information out there, and AI is going everywhere. I mean, it simply is. I know, like, for instance, one kind of job situation, my daughter worked at Hannaford's. She's now moved on to a different position she actually works at Madeline's Daughter now as a stylist, and she loves it. But she was a front-end assistant manager, and she was very distraught about what was happening a few years ago, 2 summers ago, when they were cutting down on the cashier positions and moving into the self-checkout. She goes, they're laying people off. She goes, it won't affect me because I'm salaried, but it's affecting me because I'm dealing with a whole lot more of work. And she's laying people off or cutting hours, not laying them off, but cutting hours. They're not getting 40 hours, they're getting 24.
Right.
That's a significant loss, and that job will get a second job. And she was like, she goes, I'll tell you, these people can't take that. You know what? They can't take that cut. And she goes, I feel bad, and I'm also frustrated, but you see that. You see that at Walmart. You see it, these cashier positions are going away to self-checkout, and they're moving some of the people into, warehouse type of work and things like that. But it is, you start to wonder when you see these stores closing, like Joann's and, Christmas Tree and all these. Where did those people go? That's where I would like to know, because those were retail jobs. Those were not high-paying jobs. Where did they go?
Which is, maybe the question should have been, where is retail going?
Yeah, where
and
is
how does that
retail
affect the
going?
housing
Yeah,
market?
and how does that affect the housing market? I think it affects the cost of the ability for people to make it. How it affects the market, I'm not sure. It certainly hasn't lowered prices or rents.
If anyone has any questions, please jump in. I do want to ask, has there been any, in the task force, any those folks that do work in retail, or the 20 or 30-year-olds that are living still in their parents' homes and things like that, like low-cost housing?
Yeah, well, one of the I think the most significant thing in the state has also kind of done it as well, is that we've recommended, first of all, that accessory dwelling units be allowed to be, they don't have to be attached to your home anymore. And then for us, and have already put that law put that into law. So have more accessory dwelling units is good. However, they still have to be produced, and there is a cost with that. The upside is that a lot of older people, those of us that have had our homes for a while, have an incredible amount of equity, have equity we can reinvest in it, and then that rent pays it back. But it's still not an immediate thing, of course. But that can be something that can help with your children that may be needing, or for you to live in it. So that's a generational choice. If you have that, you have somebody that can be living in that accessory dwelling unit. That's a great way of creating housing. But if you have to still build it, going to be inexpensive. That's the double-edged sword. We've put through multifamily housing which has been to date not allowed in Durham because of the fear that it would just become college students. Market for college housing has pretty much dried up. That no one's building college dorm, the Madbury Commons anymore. The market sees where the investment needs to go in building just apartments, studios 1s and 2s, and we have already made a few changes with that, and then again we've recommended that multifamily be allowed in our commercial areas, like imagine out in Durham Business Park and out in the Moodor and where all those places are, to make to allow for that. And of course the state then also jumped it for us, and I'm like, oh, so we're suggesting something the state has just now passed into law. That allows more places for people to build multifamily, which are apartment buildings. And they will eventually, probably people will. However, the concern there is again, it's not going to be inexpensive housing. The cost to build is high, I think it's more than doubled. So it's expensive to build. And the unfortunate part is that the state may be making these changes even before our municipality can make them, but they're not offering any money to help subsidize the building of these. And when you want to build workforce housing or some type of lower cost housing, you have to have, tax credits, you have to have subsidies for the builder to make it possible for the builder to do it cheaper so that they can then rent cheaper. Those subsidies have dried up, and it is halting some of these projects statewide that were ready to go, and we're planning the process now that the tax credits just disappeared. It's halted the creation of workforce housing. And so I think people need to understand that if housing is built, it will not be inexpensive. It will be expensive housing. And at the same time, they're thinking, well, okay, so then people will move into that and then free up some of the older units, and perhaps they will go down. We're still caught in this average thing. We're like, well, wait a minute. If I was getting $2,000 for that apartment, and now these brand new ones, because they're brand new, they're selling for $24,000. Well, that's less than there. I can still charge $2,000. And so I don't think you're going to see dramatic reductions. I think the only thing that will bring a dramatic reduction in the cost of housing will be a major glut of units and a major recession, which none of us really want to see.
Thank you for all this being here, and I still have a few questions, and Janet has her hand up. So, Janet, you go first.
Oh, you can. Richard, go ahead. I thought you were ending, so I just wanted to... Just a few things.
I was just giving Sally a break there, but go ahead, Janet.
I just wanted to sort of reiterate that part about the multi-generational housing, which I think is it's not going to work for everybody, but it is a wonderful option for some, and just to sort of, it's not necessarily culturally what we've done, at least in the past, several decades, but maybe that's coming back, and maybe that's attractive for a lot of families. I read an article yesterday about how we could possibly be paying grandparents to be childcare workers instead of, paying for the high cost of daycare. So that's just interesting, and to highlight that. And that leads to my next point, which was that there's no cookie cutter answers to this. And so I appreciate the task force kind of coming up with, and people really, the task force, the Seacoast Regional Task Force and so forth, coming up with a variety of answers, because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution thing. So and not only are there a variety of housing solutions, but just a variety of things in general that can help this sort of big problem that we're having. And the last thing I have to say is a big, huge thank you to this task force. I was actually really nervous that you guys were at least sunsetting or closing down or whatever, but I appreciate that you feel like you've done what you were sort of tasked to do. But then one thing you didn't mention was that, because I was worried that what you had suggested, we wanted to make sure that it was followed through. But then I was reminded that there's several of you that are on the planning board, and so I do trust that you'll kind of follow, make sure that these great ideas are kind of followed through with you and Heather and Paul. So thanks so much to the task force, and then I hope you'll reconvene in the future if needed, because we were really lucky to have you guys that put a lot of work and energy into it.
I think it's possible to put another type of committee together that's focused around housing. It's just that we have to figure out what that would look like, because it wouldn't necessarily be, creating zoning or anything like that. It would be more outreach and perhaps education. Maybe even resources. It's hard to figure out what that would be and what it would look like. And so that's why I was recommending that, was on board with the Seacoast Coalition to create these advocacy kind of groups to start to get, because it would get people in the community to start talking about how the fact that you really do have to advocate, because it is about changing perceptions. Especially in Durham, there's a lot of fear around housing in Durham, but there's a lot of answers that we could be coming up with if we just kind of get past that initial concern.
Mm-hmm.
Changing what are perceived as or long-held competing interests and turning them into common interests.
Common
and
interests,
that's advocacy and outreach and education and changing the mindsets and so forth.
And part of that is bringing the younger generation into the conversation and the college students into the conversation, because they are really speaking to their needs. We know how people feel that have been here for a long time and have a certain perception, and I get it completely, but we are not hearing enough from the concerns and the challenges from the next generation. We have people come here and get educations and then go away because they can't stay here. And even where they're going, they are challenged in the costs.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could say, oh, it's cheaper to live down south. You also get less money down south. You can move to Texas and have cheaper housing, but you're getting paid less.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of that people can't. There's just no assumption going to be better if you move to Georgia. Well, you're not going to get $25 an hour. You're going to get 15.
We live in an age where people are, and I'm tempted to say there's a lot of creative, imaginative thinking that's required for this issue, and many variables. But we are living in an age where people are creating, one term is mini mansions, or basically pods, or sort of tech future housing ideas that are, I would call definitely a step up in a mobile home, and very, very economically feasible from what I understand. You need land to put them on, and might we have the land to do that? Maybe in some of the outer fringes of Durham,
in the
it sounds
rural,
like.
in the rural area, in some of these outer areas, there could be of that type of. It has to be made legal too.
Sure.
And there's a little bit of a benchmark there. The manufactured housing, you mentioned mobile homes, but the manufactured housing, which I think we didn't really address in the amendment, but I think that it should be, it was my personal opinion that it should be, is that manufactured housing is fine. And what you're kind of suggesting is sort of like, almost like a pod park or a different type of, park. But Durham doesn't allow manufactured housing parks or the old-fashioned mobile home parks. They don't allow them at all, which is unfortunate. It does allow for people, for a large piece of land, you can fit in a lot of housing in that. And there are standards, there are very high standards to most of these places now. And I think that there is a perception of them. But you got to realize a brand new mobile home now will run you $350.
Yes, and these things I'm seeing online are $40,000, $20,000, $30,000. I mean, they're very
Yeah,
reasonable.
yeah,
and they're
yeah.
pre-made. You just order them.
They're pre-made, and
Yeah.
they're almost like little ADU units, and you
Yeah.
can bring them in. So little cottages and things. So there is some out-of-the-box thinking that does need to go on. But that's kind of the whole thing of what an advocacy group to start to talk about all these type of things and to realize all these different things. So where would it go, and what would we have to do to make it possible to happen?
Yeah.
Farmland is actually excellent, because when you realize that there could be an entire portion that of the land that's not being farmed that could become around a small little kind of cottage cluster or a little, little homes, and then you have that the agriculture is still viable.
I have a minor tech question, or maybe it's a zoning question, and that is with the availability of, or the allowance of having a structure not connected to your home be a residence for, I'll just say, a third person. So I believe there was you could only have 2 structures on your property outside of your house that were allowed, such as sheds and things like that, and 6-foot fences. And would that count as a structure in that sense?
Structure,
Or would it be independent like a garage would be?
well, I believe it's going to be independent, because it's a
Okay.
living
Okay.
unit. So it's a living unit accessory to the house, but it's a living unit, like a garage is accessory
Okay.
to the house.
Okay.
But there still is a limit on how many sheds you can have.
Right.
And
Right.
how
I just-
far your fence
Right.
can be and things
So
like
just
that.
speaking personally, my wife and I are gotten to the point after many years that we've decided that that's it. We got to do something so that the deer don't eat everything in our garden, and kind of fencing. But I know that there's a limit on fencing, and you can't go above 6 feet, or it counts as a auxiliary structure or something like that.
Yeah, you can't go above
So-
6 feet.
Right.
You'd have to get
But
A
deer can
variance.
jump 6 feet on occasion. I'm just wondering, it's sort of a minor question, but there might be people out there that are thinking, this sounds like a good idea to have, a room or some sort of apartment outside, not connected to the house, where someone can live in, but does that change any of the zoning? So
No,
it
you would be able to have an accessory dwelling.
sounds like
yeah.
it's okay, yeah.
And people can convert garages and things like that. You sometimes have to, if you're going up, you might have to shore up the structure, because
Sure.
garages aren't meant to have this. But
That's a
you can
zoning
do all-
issue.
That's a building issue.
And a building issue, yeah.
And it's a good option for people that already have a detached garage. Or they have those ready-made ones that you can bring in that are nicer. I mean, they're nicer than most people's houses. They're really,
Yeah.
gorgeous. But they offer, it is a great, as Janice said, it's a good option for generational living, and I think that kind of living is really coming back. I know we're doing it at home.
Yeah,
Out
thank
of
you.
necessity.
It turned out to be out of necessity. We bought a house that had an apartment thinking our children would all shuffle through it. 2 of them are still there, and 1 is still upstairs, and it's, one did leave and then came back because it's just like, you know what, I really like to know meet this week and then make and rent. And he's a little bit more challenged in that area, you know, so it was just more of a, he felt, you know, and we're fine. It's just like, you know, we've gotten so used to it.
Any other questions for Sally? Okay, well, thank you for giving us the lay of the land, if you will, and updating us. And I'm assuming this is a subject that we'll talk about every once in a while, if not
Yeah, it's going to be
continuously.
ongoing on, yeah.
So we may ask you back again, but
You know where to find me.
thank you for all that you've done. And
thank
Thank
you.
you for being here.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a human rights kind of thing when people don't realize it, and,
Mhm.
you know, it's a challenge.
It's part of the advocacy.
It is, and I think that that's one of the things where I would, you know, if any of you are interested in getting involved in the advocacy program that they're going to be starting, it is your basic human need. You
That's
know,
true.
because before food, shelter, seek shelter, then find the berries. All right.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to head out now.
Please do, yeah. If you so desire.
Good to see you all. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And I gave your name to her about the advocacy.
Pardon?
I gave the state, the Seacoast Coalition your name, so.
Okay.
We'll see you later, guys.
Next on our agenda is update to Know Your Rights postcard / infographics, which is the culmination of our work on that issue. Robin is not here today. He was the,
But Kathy is.
but Kathy is.
Printed material.
Kathy, you want to give us an update?
Yes, I will. And da-da-da-da, drum roll, please. We have postcards, and if you, I'll pass them around. They just arrived last week, and I haven't really cracked it open. I just eyeballed them oh my gosh. I'm really scared to look closely, because what if there is one random little typo? But after all the eyeballs and whatever, but I'll pass some of them around. And so we're planning. There you go. We're planning to put them in the lobby or the town hall, the library, some businesses downtown. If anyone wants to take them for other places you go that you think they would be useful.
Oh, these are great.
So, and we, Todd and Robin sent the QR code for the link tree, and then the town, I lost my word, not logo. Seal, town seal.
Before you go, can I just hold it up for the camera
Oh,
and
sure,
for
sure.
Janet, and maybe Rachel, you could focus on this and you could describe it a little?
Yep, so the Know Your Rights Durham is, we have these hard copies, which are meant to complement the link tree that's accessible on the town website. The link tree offers more options. If you look at the back of the infographic or the postcard, we just added the Durham Police Department, the ACLU, and League, but people can go to the link tree to get more resources and groups that will give them information. And on the front, Know Your Rights, we took skimmed off the important rights to know for community members, whether or not they're undocumented, anybody in our community. So if you're a community member who is a citizen who witnesses a nice interaction, this is helpful for you. And if you are immigrant, undocumented or documented, there's information here for you as well. It overlaps. And one of the things we'd like to do is have these made in different languages. I tried Spanish, but I don't think I would pass the grammar test. So I don't know if Human Rights Commission has any recommendations about sourcing people who would be willing to translate. In a previous meeting, we talked about some different languages it would be helpful to have these printed in. So anyway, there you
I
go.
have 2 suggestions for Spanish-speaking people.
Oh, good. Okay, yep, if you could email and,
Actually, 3.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
What? I said I know 3 Spanish-speaking people who might be willing to help translate. One of them is a native Spanish speaker. The other 2 are people who are fluent.
These look great. Okay.
Really do.
oh, yeah, thank you. I got in my graphic design bag for it. It was, it's fun to make things. And I appreciate everybody, well, Robin's not here, but I appreciate everybody's feedback and suggestions and for extra spaces, double periods, and typos. So, yeah, team effort.
So just so everybody out there who's watching knows, so we have 2 cards, which will be dispersed in public places. It's certainly here at the town and other places, but there's also on the website a link to the link tree, which has this information. So you can get it at anywhere at any time.
So
Yeah.
how are these going to be distributed to the public places? I mean, the library obviously in here, but where else and how?
Well, I was thinking I would ask some downtown businesses, and I think I'd have to ask permission, and just, I don't know, maybe some businesses would welcome them by registers or community bulletin boards. If the coffee shops have bulletin boards, we could put them on the bulletin boards. But I would be careful to make sure that I'm getting permission. And
I was at my hair cutter yesterday in Dover, and went to the bathroom, and there was I don't know where it was from. It was just like a piece of white paper with typing on it, no graphics, no color, and it
Yeah.
had the source. But it was all about what to do. It had most of this information and some more. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, and that's interesting. A lot of times when you go into a restaurant bathroom, it'll have something about trafficking.
Or domestic
But
violence.
we could, I could laminate a couple of these and see if any of the restrooms, Tide Line or downtown businesses would be willing to have them in there. Or the laundromat, maybe they'd let me put a few of these in the laundromat. So we ordered 100 of each, and so I guess we'll figure out after hours where to stash extras. But if you know any locations that, Durham Community Church, probably any of the houses of worship, maybe they'll take them too. And it says Know Your Rights Durham, so I'm assuming we want to keep them in Durham.
Yes.
That would be the best place. So.
And it's easy to have more printed.
Oh,
and all
yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
stuff,
Another place you might want to put them is at Cornucopia.
Oh, cornucopia. Yep. Okay.
Ways meet.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea too.
Do we
Great.
want to make a list of potential locations
Oh.
and that each of us thinks of so that to avoid redundancy and at the same time have adequate distribution and
That's a great idea.
good coverage?
Do you have all 100 there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was talking and not typing, but I can watch the recording for some of the things that we suggested, some of the places we suggested.
Maybe you could make a Google Doc that you could share with the rest of us, and we can fill in places to.
Okay, that's yeah.
Great. So how about shall we wait to hear from you for that? So we
Sure,
don't have
I'll
to-
do that this week.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Janet, I don't know if you heard, I'll make a Google Doc where we can lay out some places where we'll put these. So we're not being redundant or wasting, giving somebody 75 of them. by accident.
Yeah, I don't
Exactly.
know that if, I had two thoughts. One was, I know there's like a group, like there's a group that meets in our neighborhood that was asking for resources like this, so I didn't know if you were, if it was possible to take like a dozen to distribute there. And the other thing is, it's so great, I wonder if other towns would be interested in, did Deborah say she Dover that was similar? So maybe other towns are doing it, but might be nice to spread the wealth, because I think you guys did such a great job.
In that vein, I went looking around for other human rights commissions in other neighboring towns, and there aren't any, but there are some equity and racial commissions and groups that do, I guess, talk human rights in their work. Certainly both Newmarket and Dover have them, and it could be advantageous to connect with them to see if they would like to just share what we're doing so that they may know, or maybe they can get some of the information and translate it into their own town or city needs.
Even beyond that, it might be interesting at some point when we don't have a crammed agenda, or to set up a meeting with representatives from the different town groups and see what we're doing that they're not, or what they're doing that we're not.
That's a great idea. Okay, thank you. Shall we move on to approval of minutes, August 22nd, 2025? Are you still needing to depart at 5:30?
I do, but if you need me to do minutes, I'll stay.
Have you read the minutes, and can you, or give your approval, or? I guess that's-
I have, there was one, I don't remember the exact section, there was something in there where I had asked if the town is required to help someone who comes looking for housing, and I honestly don't think that was me.
Okay.
I mean, not that it matters, somebody said, somebody asked, but I don't want to take credit for something.
Okay.
I didn't.
I'll look back, or email me, and I can make it a commissioner asked or stated.
Sure,
Yeah.
that would be perfect, since.
If you can locate
no,
the
No one
exact
else
part.
is claiming.
So,
It might
claiming
have
it.
been me,
No,
but-
not that there's nothing negative or
No, no.
nothing not a mistake.
yeah, no, that's okay.
Technically,
Just
but-
let me know. It's so funny when they're not recorded, because I'm just basically
Oh,
transcribing.
exactly.
And I need to look at them within days instead of waiting 2 weeks, because then I look and I'm, oh my goodness.
They
And
no
it's like-
longer remember.
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
I've got your initials and things, but yeah, so there could be some confusion. But if you
yeah.
let me know, I'll revise it to.
Okay, I don't,
the
I actually,
commissioner.
I mean, I have it on my phone, but or do you have I don't have a paper copy.
Oh,
but
I've got it right.
I-
I've got a Word doc here, so I can go.
It's on the second page. about
Yes,
4 or 5 lines down, it says Commissioner Schwartz asked.
Okay.
There's also on the very first page.
I remember the discussion, but I just don't, oh,
Second.
here, on page 3. I'm sorry, nope,
The page 2 is over there.
page 2 is right here.
So when I opened up my minutes, the first page is fine.
So you got kind of gobbledygook language for the second and third pages?
Is it?
That
do
didn't
you
happen
have
with
a-
me.
Can you run a search in the document?
Yeah.
You put my name in, it'll give you all the
I
hits.
can send you my copy. Any other edits? Janet, did you have any?
No, I don't have any made them. No.
I have one. Oh, is that?
Approval of agenda.
Oh, okay, well, that's an easy one. Got it.
Everywhere else.
Um,
At least as far as I could read, I was just showing Richard that pages 3 and 4.
Can we just fix
Oh.
that mic real quick so I can hear?
That's
Thank you.
interesting how that turned out for you. One mistake I see is I have a header with the wrong date. So if you look at page 2, there's a header on top and a header on the bottom. So I've got the old header, so I'll revise that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's, I just found it in print.
Okay, great.
It's under discussion of housing needs for low/no income individuals in Durham, and it's the second paragraph.
Oh, yep, that's Janet, or Deborah noticed that, so I just
Oh,
changed
okay.
it to a commissioner asked.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank you.
Thank you for your minutes. They're great.
Yes. Very
I'll take a
thorough.
motion to approve the minute corrections as submitted. Somebody want to make a,
I'll make a motion.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Thank you. So, other business. Todd, you sent me an email from a citizen, and do you want to speak to that? Yeah.
We get so many emails from citizens. I
Okay.
forget which I might have sent to you. I'm sorry.
I know,
I don't remember.
Like
which-
the commissioner said.
Do you remember
You
what the
forwarded,
topic
you know,
was?
I was rushing to get here and I forgot to print it out.
Hold on. Let me see if I can search
It was
for
forwarded to
Good
us.
evening, folks.
Okay.
Good
uh,
bye,
good evening.
Thank you.
bye, Liz. Hold on.
We should mention that Leslie left the meeting at this.
Yeah, I got
Moment.
5:35.
Okay.
I remember getting that
It's
email.
not that.
But I don't remember.
I'm not. It's not coming up.
Okay,
readily. I'm
so
sorry.
this is a
I don't
little
remember.
embarrassing. So what I'll
Okay.
do for me,
just
because
don't
I
know.
should have been on top of this, but I'll look at it again when I get home and we can
Okay.
make sure that we make note of it
Found it.
at our next meeting.
Was this, this was from, was this the one from John Pikuski? Maybe not. That was about birthright citizenship?
Well, let's be on top of this and do this later.
Okay. Sounds good.
And apologies out there that we're a little sloppy here. Any other business? Janet?
I just wanted to mention that the library did have their presentation for Indigenous People Day called Murder in Plain Sight, Abenaki Murder Mystery, and it was very good. It was a virtual presentation. They gave a shout out to the Durham Human Rights Commission, which was nice, and it's a kind of a nice example of some things that we do for the future for education as we go forward. And I just wanted to let you guys know that that happened. So hopefully we can do more of that in the future.
Thank you.
And then are we discussing I thought you said there was going to be a discussion, maybe next time, I don't know, but on the remote access, did you say we would be discussing it at this meeting?
You mentioned that.
The remote access, fill me in on, I'm not registering what that is.
Oh, I just, you said in the email that we might be discussing remote access for these meetings as it is difficult to arrange.
You spoke with Craig Stevens about
Oh.
something.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I guess I am retired for a reason. Craig Stevens, who is working part-time now as a DCAT coordinator, and I had a discussion about the future of our meeting times and schedules. And I think we need to take that into consideration when we schedule our meetings, and we really should schedule another one maybe now. He is on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and he generally leaves at 3:30. Given enough time, he can be here for, say, a 4:30 meeting, but generally he's not going to be around, and it's hard to schedule Gwyneth and Rachel is thankfully here today, but I don't know her schedule either. But basically, we have found that the 4:30 afternoon meeting time is a good one for us, but it's not a good one for DCAT. And this is the first meeting where we have actually been streamed and recorded in 3 or 4 meetings because of this. And I'm just curious as to what your thoughts are as to finding another time, or if we just keep this time. It's not crucial. I don't think that we have to be televised and streamed and recorded every single meeting. Maybe if there's something special, like Sally was here today, that was a good thing, where we could schedule in advance and do that. I would like to hear your thoughts, and we'll hear Leslie and Robin after the fact, I guess, because they're not here. But we're really stuck with the 4:30 time, is my perception of what's going on here.
I'm teaching, so the earliest I could get here would be 4. Yeah. On school days.
So then evenings are difficult, or are they not difficult?
But is Greg here?
I'm sorry?
Is DCAT available for evenings?
They do a lot of evening meetings, yeah. So, but, that are scheduled on regular days, particular days. And, maybe we could schedule something in the evening, but we don't need to do that because we only meet for an hour and a half, and maybe that has nothing to do with it. But maybe it's okay to not televised and recorded and streamed every single meeting. But I'm just throwing it out as a possible time or option, depending on what people are doing and what people would like to do.
Yeah, I think, as a town, we're trying to keep costs under control. And one of the ways we've done that is to move what was a full-time position to part-time. And Craig Stevens retired, but graciously was willing to continue in a part-time role. But what that means is a certain loss of service. Like, we can't keep doing everything we did do. So I think it's perfectly acceptable for this committee or commission to meet and not be televised if it can't be coordinated. And then perhaps if there's some particularly important topic we want to really get out there, maybe we schedule at a time when it could be televised. But we do keep minutes and we post the meetings, the public can come, so that's fine.
And we're an advisory committee, essentially.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well,
I
let's,
just wanted to bring up an issue about remote access, and selfishly, it's somebody who works away a lot. It is nice to have access remotely, and there's a couple of other considerations besides remote work. Is that I think as we try to increase the sort of variety of people that might be interested in town commission and committees, instead of only people who can meet Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 kind of thing. We want to keep that in mind, that we want to give access to participate, even on these committees and commissions to people. I do realize that there are constraints, and I feel awful about putting the burden on 1 or 2 people, because that just makes me feel guilty. And the other thing is that if, from a public health standpoint, it would be nice for people to have remote access if they're not feeling well, because I think sometimes people go to meetings when they should not be going to meetings and spreading germs. So that's all I have to say.
yeah.
I was
Good
going to
points.
say something similar, that on the one hand, if the town doesn't have the money, we don't have the money. Minimally, I'd like to see some acknowledgement somewhere that we're unable to continue broadcasting these meetings because of financial constraints, and if you want proceedings. But I also agree with Janet, whether it's one of us or whether it's someone who, we don't have a lot of people watching the meetings, so it's easy to say, well, a lot of people don't come in person, they don't watch us, it's not a big deal. But in terms of accessibility for people who can't get out because it's, or they're disabled, or whatever their issue, or they hear better on Zoom than they do in person in this room. It seems a shame to me that we can't continue. I don't know if we can, if that's something that a volunteer could be taught, so there could be more hours where a volunteer could be given access to the DCAT stuff, or what else we can do. But if we can't do it every time, then I at least wanted to make it very clear and put it out there that it is our aim to be able to do this, and sometimes we're unable to because of staffing or financial constraints.
So thank you both. Maybe what we can do is make a commitment to be televised, et cetera, at least twice a year, something like that, or 3 times a year, and then we can still meet in between. And so that would give a heads up to Craig and the DCAT group, and then we would try to schedule special guests and discussions for those particular meetings. Okay.
Oh, can I just ask one question about
Yes.
this? Is remote access synonymous with televised? Because can we have one without the other? Is it possible to have it be live Zoom but not televised? I don't know. I'm no tech bro.
That's a great point, because we need someone in the DCAT control room to get the Zoom running and get the
Okay.
TVs running and the sound,
So you
so
might
it
as do it
does
all.
create an issue.
Okay.
So Todd,
unfortunately.
is the equipment, is access to that equipment such that you wouldn't want anyone to have it other than a employee? Or is this an area where you might find a high school student or college student who's interested in broadcasting or media or whatever the correct term would be, who might be willing to do that as their community service or as an internship?
We could certainly use a volunteer, but they would need to go through quite a lot of training and orientation to be successful, because it's not uncomplicated. I mean, there's a lot to do to make it all work.
Right.
And unless you're doing it regularly, it's easy to forget, and you forget one switch and it doesn't work. You know?
There's a lot of troubleshooting that you
Yeah.
have to sort of prepare for.
Yeah,
That's,
so it's just finding
Yeah.
those people, and we periodically have had volunteers who have done that, but it's not easy to find them. So
yeah.
Well, have we made any effort to put word out to the high school or to, I don't know what, the communications department or wherever it would be at UNH? And maybe it can be worded in a way that this is, we're looking for volunteer, it's an opportunity to learn this, and be responsible and commit and, make it,
Yeah.
so not any Tom, Dick, and Harry would apply, but I bet there are people out there, and especially,
Yeah, worth a look, maybe.
we can see.
Yeah. Okay, I'm mindful of the time, and Janet, did you ever hand up? Okay. Is there any other business? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
before
Oh.
we
Pick
set the
another
next
meeting
meeting.
time?
Thank you. The thought occurred to me at that exact same moment as well. We don't have to meet every month. It's October 9th. Do we want to schedule a December meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
December 4th?
Yes. I could do that.
Yeah.
December 4th is a Thursday at 4:30. Does that sound like a good tentative date for everyone? We'll pass it through Leslie and Robin. I'm hearing no objections, so I'm going to put it in.
Yeah, I'll get back to you. I mean, my problem is that I'm going to be tutoring, but the person I'm tutoring doesn't have they're playing soccer, and until their soccer schedule is done, I don't know when I'm going
Yeah.
to be tutoring them.
Okay. All right, well,
If I know that it's the 4th and I'm tutoring them on Thursdays, I can maybe rearrange that one week or something.
okay, so,
The week before Thanksgiving, so.
all right, so officially, tentatively, hearing from some of our members, our next meeting will be held on Thursday, December 4th at 4:30 here. And I'm going to say we probably will not need DCAT for that particular day.
Okay.
Is that one that Betsy is going to try to come, or?
I don't know yet. I'll talk with her. She has a new assistant secretary as well, so there's been some transition in her office, and the new person is sort of getting used to her schedules, and I will just make sure that when she comes, we will have DCAT. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Deborah, and do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Janet seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Janet. Hope you're doing well wherever you are, and thanks for everybody for coming.
Thank you.